In an interview with one of our researchers, you said that your whole career and all the amazing things that have happened to you in your life were due to a little luck at the start. Oh yes, I agree. I think everyone gets lucky sometimes. All they have to do is grab it. In 1993, Hollywood legend Leslie Caron took a bunch of pills with alcohol and waited to die. She was the star who danced with Gene Kelly. Leslie's glamorous life hid a lifetime of suffering that finally became too much to bear. I had very clear ideas about how I wanted to look, and that hasn't changed. I didn't want to look like the girls of the time who were absolutely... Leslie Caron was born on July 1, 1933 in Bologna, France. Her father, Claude Caron, was a chemist and perfumer, and her mother, Margaret P.T.I., was a Broadway dancer in the 1920s. Their worlds could not have been more different. Her father was precise and analytical, and her mother was artistic and ambitious. This mix of science and creativity shaped Leslie from the start. The Caron family lived in luxury. Their townhouse in Neuilly-sur-Seine had a butler, a chef, a chauffeur, and a governess. Margaret grew up poor and thought ballet was the key to success. She saw it as a way for Leslie to secure a future and maybe even marry into royalty. For Leslie, her childhood wasn't about play. It was about discipline, which she practiced constantly because her mother thought failure was unacceptable. Leslie often felt emotionally neglected because her mother was focused on results, not feelings. She overheard her grandfather scolding her for not paying attention to her feelings. He told her mother, "Margaret, you want your daughter to be a underscore. He thought her mother cared more about her status than Leslie's happiness. Then, when World War II hit France, the Carons lost almost everything. The family's wealth disappeared overnight, and they went from living in luxury to struggling to stay alive. The winters were brutal, and Leslie went to bed fully dressed because there was no heat. Some nights they survived on potato peels. The city around them was destroyed. People stopped trusting each other in Paris, and no one helped or even gave directions when asked. Leslie noticed that her Jewish neighbors were going missing. They used to wear yellow stars, but now they were just gone. Her family never talked about it, and her mother became depressed and drank to escape the reality of their new life. The war had taken away their money, dreams, and hope for the future. Years later, at age 67, she killed herself. But even in the hardest years, she held on to. At age 11, Leslie started training at the National Conservatory of Dance in Paris. She was very talented. And by age 14, she played a boy in The Pearl Diver. At age 16, she joined the Ballet de Champel, a company started in 1945 by choreographer Roland Paty. This wasn't just any dance group. It was where ballet met innovation, attracting creative minds like writer Jean Citeau and composer Joseph of Coso. Caron wasn't just another dancer. She quickly earned solo roles, showing how good she was. As a dancer, Caron trained hard to master routines that required both technical precision and emotional depth. But life off stage wasn't easy. She had been malnourished during World War II, which made her physically weak. But she put everything she had into her dancing anyway. The years after the war in France were a time of artistic renewal, and Caron's performances reflected that spirit. What she didn't know was that one of those performances would change her. In 1950, Gene Kelly went to a Ballet de Chapelle show in Paris. He was looking for a new leading lady for an American in Paris, 1951, after Sid Charisse had to drop out because she was pregnant. When he saw Caron on stage, he knew he had found someone special. She had never been acting before, but Kelly saw Grace's charm and something new. Within days, Caron was on a plane to Hollywood. Moving to California was a shock for Caron, who had grown up in an occupied city full of fear and hardship. Hollywood was the opposite of sunshine, warmth, and plenty. She later remembered being overwhelmed by something as simple as seeing a plate full of food. But it wasn't easy to get used to. She came to Hollywood in bad health from years of lack, and the long filming hours were hard on her. To make matters worse, she got mononucleosis while she was working. The studio wanted to replace her, but Kelly fought for her and he convinced MGM to let her work every other day while she recovered. All of her hard work paid off, and An American in Paris won. Caron went from dancing in a ballet in Paris to starring in one of Hollywood's greatest musicals. Her 17-minute choreographed ballet sequence became one of the most famous dance scenes in history, and MGM signed her to a 7-year contract, which started her film career. But Hollywood had its own problems. Caron had to get used to acting and the pressures that come with being a woman in the business. She also had to get used to working long hours and not eating well. Studio floors made things worse, so she studied nutrition and formed healthy habits, which she said improved her health and kept it up for a long time. Despite everything, Hollywood gave her chances she might not have had in France. In post-war Europe, women still had to deal with strict expectations that limited their choices. Hollywood wasn't perfect, but it let her shape her own career. Leslie Caron's big moment came in 1953 when she starred in Lily. This wasn't just another role. It was the Hollywood saw her as more than just a dancer when she played Lily Dorriere, an orphan girl who finds comfort in a carnival puppeteer and his puppets. The film, directed by Charles Walters, was based on Paul Gallo's short story, The Man Who Hated People. Audiences and critics fell in love with Caron's performance, which was raw and emotional, capturing both innocence and deep longing. She was nominated for her first Academy Award for Best Actress, won a BAFTA for Best Foreign Actress, and received a Golden Globe. A big part of what made Lily stand out was how it used puppetry. Each puppet showed a different aspect of human nature, and Lily learned about herself through them. The dreamlike scenes in the movie gave Caron a chance to use her ballet training in a magical way. One minute she was a lost girl, and the next she was dancing with life-sized puppets moving between fantasy and reality. It was a performance like nothing else at the time, and the movie was a huge hit. It won the Oscar for Best Original Score. Freedom, she later said, it was like cutting ties with the past. The memoir also gave her a chance to clear the air about rumors that had been going around for years that she had stolen roles or lied her way through Hollywood. She wrote, "Thank heaven to tell the truth, to say that she wasn't trying to change the past, she was just being honest about it." In 2007, Leslie Caron made a stunning comeback to the spotlight when she won an Emmy Award for her guest role on Law & Order's Special Victims Unit. This showed that even after decades in the business, she was still, Lorraine Delmas was, a rape survivor whose case was reopened after many years. The story was based on real cases where justice was delayed for too long. Caron's performance in the episode Recall was heartbreaking and powerful. She showed the pain of a woman haunted by the past but determined to get justice. Critics praised her ability to bring raw emotion to the role. When she won the award for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series, it was a prestigious honor that few stars from this win showed that talented people like Caron would never go away. When she returned to movies in the early 2000s, she was just as impressive. In Schlat 2000, she played Madame Odell, a widow in a small French town in the 1950s. The movie starred Juliette Binoche and Johnny Depp, and it was about breaking free from strict traditions. Caron's character was a quiet rebel against societal expectations. In Les Divorces 2003, she played Susan Dearson, a sophisticated woman who was married to a wealthy man. Kate Hudson and Naomi Watts played the matriarch of a wealthy French family in the movie, which looked at the clash between American and French culture. Caron's performance stood out for its elegance and wit. These parts showed that she could adapt to modern cinema without losing the grace that had defined her earlier career. Even in her 70s, Caron was still taking on challenging roles. In February 2010, she played Madame Armfeldt in A Little Night Music at Paris's Théâtre du Châtelet. To the power of the production, which was based on Gustav Klimt's art, got great reviews. Caron shared the stage with Greta Skokie and Lambert Wilson, and her performance was both commanding and deeply moving. She proved once again that she was more than just a dancer or a musical star. She was a true actress who could give any role depth. Her personal life also got a lot of attention. especially when she had an affair with Warren Beatty in the 1960s, when Beatty was becoming famous, and their relationship quickly became the talk of Hollywood. They lived at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, went to fancy parties, and seemed like the perfect couple. But behind the scenes, things were getting worse. Beatty proposed several times, but Caron always turned him down. Caron later said that he was controlling and always wanted approval from others. He even compared her to his sister Shirley Milan. Caron, who valued her privacy, struggled with Beatty's need for constant attention. Eventually, they broke up, though they stayed friendly over the years. Caron was never afraid to say what she thought, especially about how Hollywood treated actors. When she worked at MGM, she openly criticized the studio for limiting dancers to one type of role as the stars of musicals like American in Paris, 1951, and Gigi, 1958. She was unhappy with how the industry saw her and once said that musicals were pointless and silly, even though they were hits. To get away from that image, she studied the Stanislavski method of acting in the 1960s, which helped her get more serious roles like L-Shaped Room. 1962, her criticism of MGM was a reflection of a bigger problem in Hollywood. Many performers were stuck in certain roles and couldn't reach their full potential. Even Gigi, one of Caron's most famous movies, had its share of controversy. Behind the glitzy costumes and charming songs, the story was darker. Gigi was a young girl trained by her relatives to become a courtesan who eventually married a rich man. When the movie came out in 1958, it was seen as a light-hearted love story. But in later years, it was seen as a serious love story. Critics started to question how it portrayed young women and arranged relationships. Caron herself said in later interviews that some parts of the story were hard to play. What started out as a simple musical had taken on a more complex meaning over time. Despite all of this, Leslie Caron remained an artist who refused to be limited to one era or type of role. From wowing audiences in classic MGM musicals to giving unforgettable performances in modern movies and TV shows, she proved that she was an artist for all times. Her talent and hard work could last a lifetime. Her job was full of new ideas and challenges, and she never stopped pushing herself.